Hi everyone, my name is Carrie. Welcome back to my channel. So, how much have I been reading this past month, you may ask? Well, I finished a book. At least I finished a book. And when I say this book, oh my god, I was entrapped in it. I was hooked. I was hoodwinked back and forth, just like Holly Jackson does with every one of her books. Five Survive is mystery and thriller, and it's about 6 friends who are on their way to spring break down in, I think it was Florida. Nope, Gulf Shores, Alabama. But they get stopped in my favorite state, and I'm looking at the flag that I have literally hung across the room for me, South Carolina. So, traveling in an RV, the 6 friends get stuck in South Carolina because they pop a tire. So when they fix the one tire they popped and they all hop back into the RV, they're about to go back on the road, about to make it to Gulf Shores, and then their tires get blown out by gunshots. All 4 tires get blown out by gunshots, and they're just like, what, like, there's a sniper. And the novel, I thought, this was super interesting because I thought it was going to have an unreliable narrator because the main character, or who the POV is seen from, is Red. Her name is Redford Kenny, and you learn a lot from her in like the very first chapter, but still so much more to keep guessing, because she talks about this plan she has to get more money in order to have heat in her house, to make sure her alcoholic dad is, eating, and so is she, and you're just like, oh my god, like what, she's 16, 17, and she has to take on so much responsibility. It's so sad, but she has this plan, and you keep wondering what that plan is, and then something in the story has something to do with it, and you figure out the story through the 6 characters being stuck in this RV with a sniper outside, and the sniper will only let them go if one of them, the one they're looking for, will tell their secret. So you learn a lot about each character in this book, from the secret they're not telling, how they're keeping that secret, why they don't want to share. And as you can see, I took notes. I didn't want to write in this because I've been telling people about this book, so in case they, don't want to see my notes, in case they want to guess if I lend them this book, like what happens, I would just take them out. But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of guessed one of the plot twists in here, so I'm very happy about that. I don't know, what can I say? I'm just that good. But this was really interesting because while reading, I was like, oh my god, like I don't like this person. I don't like this one character a lot, and it's just it's so weird. It got me thinking. I was like, I know this is fiction. I know this character that I hate is fake, but they have real attributes, like to a real person, and you're just like, man, I kind of want you to get hurt, and it's so weird. Like, I pulled back at one point after thinking that, when this character was like just really getting really scary, kind of being like a second villain. It's weird. It's weird how reading is able to get your mind thinking like that, and then you're like, I want a character to die. At first this character meant no harm, but then you see like the turmoil in their head, and through Red's point of view as the story goes on, and you're like, maybe you are the villain, dude. Like, it's so good. I finished this all in one night. I had homework to do, but I wanted to finish. It was so good. I was early on in the story too, kind of near middle before I finished it, because it just kept getting better and better. It was so good. 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. Yeah, so that's like the only book on my TBR that I finished. I'm happy about it. I'm happy I finished it, because when I first started reading it, I was early on in the story. So before that night I really finished it, I kept kind of dedicating at least a chapter or two a night before I went to bed. And then that whole night I was like, whoa, things are really picking up in the story, and then I finished it. But, you know, I'm not just going to end the video being like, I only finished 1 book on my TBR. Oh no, wish me luck. No. Being a college student, you get textbooks. You have to get quite a lot of textbooks if you're an English major like me. So, pros and cons about that. Con is that you have to get textbooks, and it's a lot of reading. Pro, you get a lot of good ideas. These books are phenomenal. This is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Reading this, I kept thinking, like, Virginia Woolf is so real. Like, she is so hilarious. Like, she's like a modern girl, like a modern, like, mid-20s girl, and I don't know how old she was when she wrote this. She said she was in college. She's like a modern girl being hilarious, but like writing from her own time, like writing from, what is this, 1900, 1800, somewhere in between. I mean, just so funny. First of all, she is at, I think she goes to school, and this is where I'm not really sure on some things, because it's still written from like 100 years ago, you know, or at least, you know, a while ago. So the writing is a little different. Some sentences can be simplified to understand. It's just, you know, it's just the language of her time. She's so funny because I think she goes to a men's college for some stuff, but then sleeps at the women's college, or eats there, or, you know, it's just because women, of course, at this time weren't seen and didn't have a lot of the same rights as men. But she's so funny in the beginning, because she's like, I had this thought, and it was awesome, and I was just sitting outside, and this thought came to me, and it was great, and it was awesome, and I went to go run and write it down, and it was amazing. And then a man stopped me, reminding me that I couldn't be alone on the grass, so I forgot my thought. Like, it's so funny. Like, and when she's like when she's writing, she goes, yeah, isn't it interesting women don't have a lot of rights, you know? Like, when you're walking on a field and you have this brilliant idea and a man comes up and makes you forget. Like it's so funny. She's so funny, and she literally is describing the dinners at the men's college and like versus the dinners at the women's college, because it shows more of the discrimination at the time. But when she's describing the women's dinner at the women's college, she's just like, it's disgusting. The soup is like gravy. There is nothing. This is so bad. But the prunes they have here, okay, don't sleep on the prunes. The prunes are actually really good. Like, she is just like bouncing from thought to thought, but it makes her so real and so human and so funny. Because what I get from a lot of writers from her time and philosophers as well, either way before her time or right, like walking alongside Virginia Woolf, is that they try to be so philosophical with their writing that they're like, I only know what this sentence means. Like, yeah, you wrote it. Like, stop writing as if you are the smartest man alive. Another piece of feminist work that I've been reading is Mary and the Wrongs of Women. Specifically, The Wrongs of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft. And I knew her name from somewhere, because I did take a late 18th century literature course, and I was just like, I know her. How do I know her? She's Mary Shelley's mom. Love it. I love Mary Shelley. I completely forgot that they were mother and daughter. The Wrongs of Women is actually an incomplete manuscript because Wollstonecraft was pregnant with Mary Shelley when she was writing it, and then she didn't get to finish it. You see her notes at the very end of the book, and they're just like I don't know if you can see, but they're not, like, this one is complete, so we call that like the complete ending in class, but up here you get these notes that's like, it's literally like how I write sometimes. Like, I'm like, okay, I know I want this, then this, and this. Okay, this happens, so dash, this is going to happen, therefore. Like, it's just notes without explicit detail, but it reminds the author what they wanted to write. Mariah, who's the character in The Wrongs of Women, committed suicide because it's this whole thing about when women don't have an education or a job and they're sheltered because their family wants them, their family and society needs them to find a man and be married. Women have a lot of time on their hands to think about the true love they want, but in that they project it onto certain men. So Mariah, she's in this asylum possibly for hysteria, which at the time was probably what we would now call postpartum depression, which, don't know if y'all know, hysteria is like a Latin root word for female anatomy. I'm gonna let y'all think about that. But it is such a good read. Some stuff there are sentences that are still a little hard to understand, but all in all, it was such a great read because you see Mariah projecting this fantasized ideal in her head about the perfect man onto this man. No, I think he works at the asylum, but she figures out who he is and meets him by seeing his like notes in the margins of the books she reads. And that's the thing, like, I connected this to romance books today, where people are just like, real romance only exists in the novels. And so when young girls and possibly young women around my age still read books, like romance books, and kind of haven't formed or they haven't really had relationships all that much. Like, I literally have not had that many relationships, and for a while I was like, oh my god, I just want to love like the books, I want to love like the movies. Girl, be so for real right now. You learn where it's like, you know what, like, that's why romance books are created, because there can never be a love like that truly in this world, in the real world. So it's kind of sad, but it does make you think, like, wow, women back then, and still women now, like, they need experience. And this whole book is a manuscript for Mariah's daughter to read so she can learn to get those experiences so she doesn't end up like Mariah. Similarly, Mary Wollstonecraft wrote this for Mary Shelley, so she knew to get experience, because Mary Wollstonecraft died giving birth to Mary Shelley. So, like, my heartstrings were tugged learning that in class. Heartbreaking. God, how I love being a woman. I'm also reading a really good, I call it a novel, called The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. It's a very interesting book that has chapters, but they're called vignettes, I don't know. And it's like poetry, but you understand so much from the little perspective you have, like little understanding you have from the child narrator. It is amazing. I can go into it in my next wrap-up. Currently, I'm reading Legendborn, which is really, it's really getting there. I was a little skeptical at first because, okay, so I don't like complete fantasy like Shadow and Bone, or like maybe like Sarah J. Maas books, just like being like, oh, here's a fantasy world, here's fantasy terms, here are fantasy names and places you cannot pronounce. I like real world magic, so like Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, even though I don't really like Harry Potter and only actually read the first book. I like magic in the real world, and that's what Legendborn is, and I was just skeptical because it just seemed like something I heard before, you know, being like, oh, girl sees magic, girl wants to go towards magic, maybe girl has magic within her. What is interesting is that the two other characters, Cell and Tor, that our main character Bree meets, is like, they're part of the college, they're part of the school, but the school may also be part of the magic. So yeah, I'm reading Legendborn right now, which is the second book I chose from my TBR jar that is way overdue in terms of the month I meant to finish it in. But that's okay. The last book I have to read, and truthfully it's a reread. Well, is it a reread if you never actually finished the book? No. I have to read the Red Pyramid series. I got so close to the end and I can see the book right now because it's what's holding my camera up. But I can see the little pink slip that I have indicating where I stopped. I was so close to being done. I do this with Rick Riordan. I don't know why. It took me forever to finish the Percy Jackson series when I was actually in middle school. And then when I was 18, I actually finished both series. And I finished, it took me a while. Not Rick's fault, but I finished Trials of Apollo. I love Rick Riordan so much, and yet I always take the longest time on his books. And it's my fault, not his. But anyways, I'm really excited for Legendborn. I'm actually marking with a pen in the book of things I like, things of a character's trait, personality that I want to remember. Other than that, this is kind of a sloppy video, but I wanted to get something done for the start of September. I'm going to be posting another video, a draw with me, like 2 weeks after you see this one or so. I'm really excited about that one. I really did enjoy making that video and talking about my art style, how my art has formed, has changed, what I still need to learn, anatomy. But other than that, it's just a good old time. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos about me talking about books or me drawing and talking about art and my art specifically, please subscribe. I like it here. You should too. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.